Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the latest of the Council's community conversations. My name is Councillor Gareth Roberts. If you're in Hampton and don't know who I am, then I've not been doing my job properly for the last 10 years. However, I'm leader of the council and one of the ward councillors for Hampton, and I am the chair for the meeting this evening. We've been doing a few of these up and around the borough over the last few weeks, and today the fickle finger of fate lands on Hampton and Hampton North issues. Now, we've got a few rules of engagement for the evening. The event is going to be recorded, which means that when you get to ask your question, which I hope you will, that you will form part of the official record. So if you ask a question, it will be recorded and will be part of the council's website. Also, of course, if you are going to ask a question, then please, if you are currently masked, don't have the video on, do switch your video on, because it adds a certain degree of, brings everything to life. You can see the people who are asking the questions. All attendees are muted. People who ask a question will be unmuted in advance of the event. Now, you may want to know how you can ask a question. The way to do it is that this Zoom thing has a chat function. Now, all I need you to do is write the word question, not the question itself, but the word question in the box, and I will come to you in turn. Please don't use the raised hand function, as that takes you out of the main list. And we've had that happen a couple of times during this cycle, and people get terribly shirty when their question doesn't get asked, because we simply cannot see the fact that you're in a different list anymore. Also, please try not to put other chat or write the entirety of the question in the chat, because similarly, we've had people not having their question asked because I simply cannot see amongst this screed of text that somebody wishes to ask a question. So if you want to ask a question, just write the word question and we will come to you when we can. We will try to get through as many questions as we can through the course of the evening. If we don't get to your question, what we'll do, we've got your email because you registered for the event, and we will then email you later, ask what point you wish to raise, and we will do our best to get a question answered for you. Because you've had the good taste to come along, we should have the good taste to try to answer your questions for you. There are a few ground rules in terms of event etiquette. First, please try to keep your questions brief and no long statements, please, because it does mean that people later in the list may miss out on getting to ask their question directly. If there's any argy-bargy, people who take control of the mic or take control of the chat, I'm sure it won't happen. But if it does happen, then we've got our sort of internet bouncers who will sort of take those people to one side and ask if they can moderate their behaviour. Because again, in places like Hampton and Hampton North, I'm sure that won't be necessary. After the event, we'll be emailing all of you with some of the key points which have been raised, websites which may be of use, and general information about the event and how you can contact the ward councillors that have been here to speak to you. And talking of the ward councillors, it's about time we introduce them. Unfortunately, Councillor Thomason cannot be with us this evening. So for Hampton North, you have Councillor Suzette Nicholson. No, Hampton, you have Councillor Suzette Nicholson, and you have me. And for Hampton North, you have Councillor Avril Coelho, Councillor Kate Howard, and Councillor Jeffrey Samuel. And they're all standing by to answer your questions. What we usually do at these events is that we kick things off with a short information video, which is all about what the council has been doing over the last few months on your behalf, as we've all got to grips with lockdown, COVID-19 and the pandemic. So if my tech elves are standing by, we shall run VT. Thank you.
It's been an extraordinary period for all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a profound impact on all our lives. The council has not been immune. The pandemic has brought huge challenges to us and to the way in which we deliver services to residents. Throughout the whole period, we have been committed to providing key services to all residents and help to those who need it most. As a snapshot of some of the things we achieved in just the first month of lockdown alone, we provided more than 6,000 hours of home care. We provided social care for over 1,600 vulnerable adults. We answered over 2,000 calls to our community hub. We provided 47 rough sleepers with accommodation. We delivered over 500 books directly to residents from our libraries and saw a 365% increase in people using our online library services. We had over 42,000 views of our online sports classes. We collected an estimated 47 tonnes of waste and recycling every day. And we kept our 51 schools open, providing education for over 500 children of key workers and vulnerable families. We know that things haven't always been perfect, and many people have been frustrated by some of the lockdown measures that have been put in place, and the fact that some of our services had to stop to ensure the safety of residents and staff. But we've been committed to prioritising those most in need. During this challenging period, I have been blown away by the continued incredible community spirit that we have seen across the borough. The pandemic has brought out the very best in so many of our residents, with neighbours providing a helping hand, the weekly clap for our carers and frontline workers, residents donating to food banks, and the general willingness of so many to go above and beyond in their support for members of our communities. Following a call for volunteers, Richmond CVS received a staggering 3,000 applications from residents eager to help in any way they could. We have seen groups delivering food parcels, setting up virtual fitness classes, checking up on elderly residents that are shielding, and collecting prescriptions. This generosity from residents and local groups has been genuinely humbling. And as we look to the future and towards recovery, we know that there are still huge challenges ahead. The recovery period provides us with an opportunity to make environmental changes that are needed across the borough, and we have already started implementing some of these. For example, we have already started with our post-COVID-19 highway recovery strategy, looking at how we can ensure social distancing, encourage walking and cycling, and ensure our children can get to school safely. Over the next few weeks and months, we will be looking at other ways we can support local communities. And of course, residents will need to play their part in the future as they have done over the last few months. We've worked hard to ensure that businesses have received the funding they're entitled to, awarding a total of £35.79 million to over 2,100 local businesses. But now, as our high streets begin to reopen, we all need to make sure that we support our local shops. Many of our businesses are run by local people, and if we don't use them, we will lose them. As we emerge from this difficult period and look towards recovery, we want residents to come on board and provide us with their thoughts and ideas on how we can create a better borough for all of our residents. This moment provides the Council with an opportunity to reflect and improve the way we work and engage with residents, and your support and ideas are key to that. Thank you for coming this evening, and I look forward to hearing from you all.
Okay, so that's just a brief snapshot of some of the things which the Council has been doing on your behalf over the last, well, however many months it is now. And I apologise now for the rather leaden voiceover. I was aiming for sort of measured and statesmanlike, and it just came across as being terribly droning. So we're going to look at that for the next one. So it's time now that we move on to the updates from the ward's councillors. We're going to be hearing from Hampton first, and then we're going to be hearing from Hampton North. And we're going to ask, we're not going to be hearing from everybody. We're asking for spokespersons from each ward to take their turn. So we're going to go to Councillor Suzette Nicholson, who is going to speak for 2 minutes or thereabouts on issues relating to Hampton. Thank you, Suzette.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'd like to start by saying thank you to organised groups and individual residents who have helped neighbours over the lockdown. Examples I know of are Sandra Harvey at Linden Hall, William Redfern, Chair of the Hampton Society, and Jane Witham of the Jolly Coopers Pub. Also, the Hampton and Richmond Football Club members have joined in as well. I directed some individuals myself personally to the council hub so that they could access food parcels and other social care they needed. Unfortunately, I spent some of my daily exercise walks identifying and reporting fly tipping, which was removed quite quickly by the council contractors. As we started to come out of lockdown, There was also an increase of litter and antisocial behaviour. And one of these, unfortunately, was on Garrick's lawn by Garrick's Temple. Park Guard did attend on many occasions to try and help prevent this. I also reported overflowing listings, and residents can do this too on the council website. During lockdown, there's also been a general huge increase in household rubbish and recycling. This has caused some problems as the crews had to return to the depot to empty their vehicles. And some streets occasionally, and Tags Island, did not have their recycling collected. But I want to assure you that the councillors and officers are doing their best to make sure things are better going forward. Most councillors are interested with planning applications in Hampton. There was one on the 18 to 22 Church Street, which was conversion of offices to 14 flats. This has been refused last week in relation to transport and traffic issues. I sit on the Education and Children's Service Committee, and there has been some concern reported nationally that lots of children have had to be taken into care. But in Richmond Borough, this hasn't been the case. The number of children in care has remained relatively stable since March 2020, and we're not seeing a significant increase. My thanks go to the schools in Hampton and Hampton North, especially to the teachers. Schools have kept open, at first to children of key workers and those in need, and then gradually they've received others. There was lots of work done making difficult plans to keep children and staff safe. There was also the results of the CPZ consultation, and there wasn't overall benefit seen to actually accept it by residents. There was few roads that wanted to see it, but these weren't joined, so a CPZ couldn't be put together. There is going to be further work done on the main shopping areas like Station Road and Station Approach. I'd like to end with saying the local director of public health and other officers of the council with some councillors are keeping an eye on how the virus is in the borough. 86% of contacts of those testing positive have been reached through the track and trace system. And we also have the second highest rate of testing in London. However, it's up to residents to do their part, and most of them are, and follow the general public health advice. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Suzette. Now we move on to Hampton North issues, and we move to Avril. Avril Quayle.
Thank you, Chair. I'd first like to thank the Trussell Trust volunteers, Mike Payne from Hampton and Thames Community Association and the Vineyard for ensuring the food bank opened every week during lockdown on one day rather than two. And they did that until food parcels were delivered direct to people's doors. I'd also like to thank Rules and Richmond Aid for coordinating with the Council Resilience Hub and St Mary's Church, Hampton, for shopping for people, dropping food to people's houses from local supermarkets and collecting prescriptions and dropping those for people. I can't thank local residents enough for coming together and sharing information and helping each other out ever since the panic buying started to present day. And for turning out for 10 weeks every Thursday evening to show their support and thanks and appreciation for all our key workers by clapping for them every night on Thursday. Hampton North, you've really done us proud. I'd also like to thank Serco for collecting the missed collections caused by an increased amount of waste for more people being at home and promptly following my emails up to collecting these the next day, and for residents for getting in touch with me directly. I'd like to thank our housing associations for updating councillors regarding their COVID-19 changes, because there's a lot of social housing in Hampton North, and thank our tenants champion, Jim Millard, for forwarding that to all borough councillors. And LEH have done a fantastic job during the pandemic, because they followed my lead doing a fundraiser for Shooting Star Children's Hospice, which I set up on the 1st of April for my birthday. And they raised over £2,000, which is remarkable. And that's thanks to LEH Seniors. And just literally, I can't thank you enough for what you've been doing. And locally, housing issues, thank you for coming to me on those. They've been really diverse, covering a wide range of issues, from infestation in properties to evictions and much more. I won't bore you with the details. You can hear from me directly in newsletters via the Hampton Society. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. And Jeffrey, your turn next. Jeffrey Samuel.
Thank you, Leader. Well, the early part of the lockdown, the priority for Kate and for me was our very successful campaign to raise funds for the wonderful children's hospice, which is in our ward. It costs an amazing £5 million a year just to run, and all of our fundraising activities have, of course, been cancelled. And in many ways, we gave priority to supporting this hospice, which does such a wonderful job. Personally, I've been in touch with all of the schools and are very pleased with what they've been doing. I have to say that in my many years as a councillor, I've never had so many complaints about aspects of the waste collection. That is more waste collections than I've ever known previously. It is problems with the green collection, and it is problems with recycling. Now, some of these problems were caused by what at the beginning was the necessary closure of the tip at Townmead. But it was inevitable that the demand for the tip would be greater once it opened, but sadly the hours actually were reduced. And working practices at the tip meant that, in fact, far more was covered than would happen normally. And inevitably, some people, many that I know, were reduced either to fly tipping or more likely putting things that should have gone to the tip into waste collection. And I spent an enormous amount of my time following up problems on behalf of residents. But secondly, and I applaud the fact that the leader is giving emphasis to community support, and he will share my sadness that residents in Hampton North are not in fact enjoying this. The White House over the last few years has been an enormously successful community centre in an area that has the highest percentage of social housing in the borough. The courses that it has run, the outreach work that it has done, the activities that it has provided have made a huge difference to the quality of life for residents in Hampton North. But it's closed. It's now weeks since the government allowed community centres to close. I entirely understand and support what the leader is doing, but the responsibility for this lies with elsewhere. And those who are able to and responsible for opening the community centre have not done so. And that is a matter that both Kate and I deplore because of the effect that it's had on our community. And we will do all that we can to ensure that the council takes over the White House and brings in the professional management that it both needs and wants.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, so there you are, folks, a brief update from your ward councillors. What we're going to do now is have another video. This is about a new council initiative. Over the years, I'm sure many of you will have noticed that the council is rather adept under all colours of taking money away, but rather less adept at giving it back. But what we have created is a new scheme, the Local Area Fund, which is going to be £10,000 per ward, which is to be used for pressing issues or matters which you'd like to see dealt with in the ward. And we have a small video to illustrate that now. And you will see, when you see this video, how important it is to have a jaunty background track playing over your voice, because it brings it alive so much more. So compare and contrast with the one which I did. So can we have the next video, please?
A new £180,000 fund has been launched to help support community-led projects in every ward in the borough, helping to rebuild local areas and connect communities after the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. The £10,000 pot for each ward is intended to support local initiatives helping launch new ideas and developing projects to make a positive difference to our borough. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a widespread impact on how we deliver services and support local people. We welcome all ideas on how to improve your local area, particularly those that aim to help rebuild our communities, connecting people and finding new ways of supporting each other. Any individual, local group, charity or business can submit an idea or apply for a grant. Applications need to demonstrate how the project meets one or more of the following priorities. Enable local people to develop, agree and deliver their own responses to local issues and build stronger communities. Make public places more attractive, enjoyable and distinctive. Support local initiatives that address the causes of climate change and minimise the environmental impact of carbon, waste and pollution to protect the future of our borough and our planet. Promote the vitality of our town and neighbourhood centres. Widen participation in sports and physical activity. Enhance the artistic and cultural offer and protect the borough's heritage. Improve health and well-being. Improve crime prevention. Improve community assets. Before you apply, you will need to discuss your idea with your ward councillor to see how it fits with local priorities. You can do this by sharing your idea online or contacting your ward councillors directly. And then, your idea will be reviewed by ward councillors and officers to recommend next steps for your idea. This may include an application to the local area fund, but could also include signposting you to another source of support or funding for your idea. If the idea is suitable for the local area fund, we will invite you to submit a formal application. Once a complete application has been submitted, it will then be reviewed and we'll let you know if it has been successful. We look forward to hearing from you.
So there you go. That was Councillor Millard there, by the way. He's a professional actor, so that's why he delivers it far better than I possibly could. You may be thinking, £10,000? Well, that's not a great deal, and I agree. It's not exactly the lost treasure of the Aztecs. However, 18 wards, £10,000 a ward, £180,000 to reinvest in projects around the borough. Now, all of the other streams of funding aren't affected by this in any way. So the Civic Pride Fund is still available. The Hampton Fund still keeps, doling out the grants when they can. But this is something entirely new. So if you want to look into it, the details are going to be in the email which you're going to be receiving at the end of this meeting. Right, so now we come to the part of the evening, which is all about you. It's all about the questions which you have for us. So what I would like to remind all of the councillors, this is on the council's shilling that's in the meter, so please try to avoid partisan points, whether locally or governmentally, or central government, I should say. And if people who are asking questions, don't forget, write question in the chat function. We have one already and we have two now. So what we will do straight away is go to Nick Kennelly, who has a question. Mr. Kennelly. Mr. Kennelly, I think there's something wrong with your microphone. Viewers of a certain age may remember Pinky and Perky, but it's very high pitched. Try again.
No, it's not working.
No, it's no better, Mr. Kennelly, I'm afraid. Tell you what, Mr. Kennelly, if you privately message me, then I will read your question out. How's that? And whilst you're doing that, we'll move on to Ian Lancaster, who also has a question.
Thank you, Councillor Roberts. I'm afraid not a direct question, and one that I have raised with you by email, but I want to air it here. And the issue is Hampton Court Road and Thames Water. What can we do collectively to persuade Thames Water that it should be making proper long-term capital investment in the sewerage main and the main water pipes under Hampton Court Road, which are over 150 years old, weren't designed to carry the weight and amount of traffic that is now being used on the A308? How do we get them to invest so that we don't get traffic holdups every 3 months or more on that road? Thank you.
Okay, I mean, I could wade in on this one, but if any other councillors wish to take it, okay. The long-running problem of the waterworks on the A308, I mean, it has been going on for as long as I can remember, and you're quite right, it is owing to the fact that the roads, and not just the surface of the road, but the construction underneath, simply was never intended to take the weight of traffic, including the HGVs, which thunder down it on a daily basis. To be honest, I will start this off with people perhaps sitting back and gasping slightly. I thought that Boris Johnson had a very good idea when he was Mayor of London, and that was that there was going to be a plan to charge utility companies by the day if they wanted to dig up, and they would, they would actually rent the roads out, and it would certainly sharpen their minds to how they would get on with the work which needed doing. And I would be all in favour of that, of a similar approach being adopted for the A308. Unfortunately, what we have is a company which seems to prioritise short-term fixes over long-term changes. The problem that you would have if we did decide to really pressure Thames Water to go down the route of digging the whole thing up, relaying all of the utilities underneath and then popping the surface back on, is that we would possibly have, I believe the estimate is somewhere between 4 to 6 months at a minimum of having that road dug up, and that will have immense knock-on implications for the rest of the borough, to be honest, because it's a major road. So the only thing which I can suggest, and I'm sorry, it doesn't sound particularly good, is just to keep lobbying hard on Thames Water that if they do need to do work, that they put in decent fixes first and foremost, and that they get on with it and do it as quickly as they possibly can. I mean, I'm happy to start having the conversation about the 4 to 6 month minimum closure, but I doubt first and foremost that Thames Water want to put that level of huge investment in, because I imagine it's cheaper for them to quickly pop in, do a fix and pop out again. But just keep the email conversation up. That's what I would suggest. You're muted, Mr. Lancaster. I will see if I can unmute you. Here you are. There you are. You're back in the room. So
yeah, I did just unmute, and if I may come back.
Yes, of course. That's what you're here.
I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for everybody. I would rather have a planned 4 to 6 month disruption, a known period when the road is going to be subject to traffic controls, than ad hoc, sometimes very immediate traffic control, which over the time that I've lived in the borough has added up to a hell of a lot more than 4 to 6 months. And I'm afraid that while I understand your point that Thames Water seems to be more interested in paying its shareholders dividends than it is in investing in the long-term future, that's where we need to be lobbying, if necessary, with Ofwat, with, okay, let's go back to the former Mayor of London. I don't know, what to suggest.
I don't know what he's doing these days.
And as I say, I don't know that I speak for everybody. I must make that clear. But I would certainly I would prefer to have planned 6 months rather than, 6 months over every 2 or 3 years on an ad hoc basis.
Okie dokie. We'll see what we can do. We'll certainly take it forward. The conversation doesn't end here on that one, I'm sure. Now, Mr. Kennelly, who was having trouble with his microphone, has emailed me his question. He said he is concerned about the lack of live music venues and arts venues in the ward, especially with the loss of the White House and capacity restrictions elsewhere. Is it possible to think about creating an outside space for our arts at this difficult time?
If I
I'll take Jeffrey and then I'll bring in Avril.
As you know, the arts have been one of my priorities all my years as a councillor, and I entirely agree with Mr. Kennelly, and like him, I deplore the closure of the White House. There was a hope when Hampton Square was originally opened that we would have occasional outdoor concerts, And I, in fact, approached all of the local secondary schools and asked whether they would contribute musical items. So I like Mr. Kennelly's point, and I think it would be extremely helpful if the council would approach the schools and the music societies to see whether they could use that wonderful square for the outdoor concerts that both he and I would like.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Avril, Kate.
Yeah,
I'll bring you in after Avril, okay?
Okay, fine, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. So this is an idea that I put to officers about a year and a half ago, and it's to have an amphitheatre in the middle of Hampton Square, where we've currently got that bit of green lawn that gets dead every summer. People run across that, you get puddles at the side of it in the winter that you end up treading in and your shoes get saturated. That space could be dug down, recessed, and plumbing wise linked up with a fountain next to it, with a roof over one side that's paved, where a band can perform, or performing arts, drama classes, local schools. It can be used by lots of people who currently can't use the White House because of COVID-19 restrictions. Speaking of which, I think at this stage it'd be appropriate to respond to what Councillor Samuel said about that. There seems to be some implications that HOC has been unnecessarily delaying on the surrender of the lease. HOC trustees are really keen, just like everybody else, to return the lease so that everybody can enjoy the services that they need and want, and it really deserves to get back up and running. But there's an outstanding concern advised by our HR consultants. I say our because I am chair of HOCA, and Jeffrey was directing his concerns at me. And
Avril, Avril, I would just ask that you're speaking here as a councillor this evening, not chair of HOCA.
Exactly.
Jeffrey, thank you.
Well,
I do have to, because it's on the council thing, I do have to be quite strict. I'm sorry about that. But
okay,
do make your broader points, but
This idea is also something that would replace the fact that we used to have monthly markets there, run by people that worked in the White House and organised by them. And it used to cost a couple of grand a time to erect and dismantle a stage in the middle of the square. It was also used by local groups who performed at Hampton Carnival every year, and Nursery Green was also used as a music space outdoors. The cost of all of that and security for it is quite unrealistic at the moment. Having an amphitheatre in the middle of the square would go some way towards that, plus it would provide part sun, part shade seating throughout the year for people to sit down, enjoy and study.
Okay, that's grand. Thank you very much for that. Kate, you wanted to come in?
Yes, please. Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, Avril, but the markets were not run by people in the White House. The markets was run by actually a woman called Sarah Burley, who got all the people in to run it. The other thing is, what I would like to know is that there was always a stage on the Hampton Square, but it wasn't on the green. It was set back, and it did have an amphitheatre, and it had sound. And at the carnival, many bands played there, and many schools played there. And I'm hoping they will continue. What I'd like to ask you, as your chair, can you just tell the residents why the White House remains closed?
Kate, she's not, as I've just had to ask Councillor Coelho not to act as chair, I have to ask you not to field questions to her as chair. I'm trying to be even and balanced on this one.
Okay, all right, then let's accept it as a mystery.
Mr. Kennelly, you can't speak because because of your bizarre microphone. But as you can see, you have 3 ward councillors who are all eager as you to see something going on, a spot of live music to chase the blues of the COVID pandemic away would be much welcome. So do keep in contact with all of them. Thank you very much for your question. Okay, so I see, sorry about this. Kaylee Butler, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, of course, hello.
Hello, hi everyone. So I live in Hampton North, but I also do a lot of youth work with schools and youth stuff. So my questions are very much around youth. I'm director of LVA Trust. So I was just wondering, so at the beginning of the pandemic, our charity set up a youth worker hub for local youth workers, and we meet virtually every every couple of weeks. And our last meeting, we were really frustrated on the lack of guidance for youth workers on how they can reintegrate into youth work. So my question on that is there anywhere that you can point us locally so that I can take some information forward for local youth workers so that we feel safe and able to reintegrate into youth work? And also, just there wasn't any mention during the explanations of everything that everyone's doing in Hampton and Hampton North on what the council's involvement is with youth work and what is in place at the moment for youth.
Okay, well, you are in luck this evening, Kaylee, as we have the Vice Chair of the Children's Education Service Board. Is that right? Yeah, Education and Children's Services Board, that's it. I should learn my script. So, Suzette Nicholson, would you like to answer those points?
Well, there's been a press release put out, I think even today, over 180 activities that young people can do in the borough. But Achieving for Children is the place to go to ask about the youth work. I'm sure that they'd be eager to get started and eager for any help that you could give them. I could pass on your details to them if you'd like that.
Yes, please. Thank you.
May I?
Yes.
Of course, Jeffrey.
Yeah, just a couple of words. I would say that thanks largely to the YMCA, the youth centre in Hampton Square is enormously successful, and it has a leading youth worker who's one of the best I've ever come across. And I'm sure
he's part of our community group.
Yeah. I'm sure of it. But equally, of course, we look once again at the White House, and whereas I entirely agree with you, Leader, we don't want any unnecessary controversy, we should all at least stick to the facts. The White House is not closed due to COVID, and Kate has pointed out the market was never run by the White House. Let's at least stick to the facts.
I would like to stick, and I also would like to stick to the present if we possibly could, because people have come here to have their questions answered rather than here sit for tat between their ward council.
Leader, can I just come in one more thing?
Yes, of course you can, Kate.
Yeah,
yes,
the Richmond and Hampton youth football teams want to make the wasted area at the back of the White House, the pitch there, into a pitch for the football team, the youth football team, from the 5 to 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds to play on. And they'd rebuild it. But as this belongs to the White House, would it not be possible for that to be released to the Richmond Hampton youth football team?
It's an interesting point, Kate. If you wish to drop an email to me, I will certainly put it forward to the sports team. But it is, of course, part of the wider curtilage of the White House. So,
thank you very much. Thank you.
Not at all, Kate. I support Avril.
During the pandemic and prior to that, I had contact with the Children in Care Council, and we had arranged for them to get on board with carnival planning and play a role in stewarding people around Nursery Green and 2 facilities on Carnival Day. Hopefully, if carnivals do continue in the future and the pandemic eases, that's something we can revisit. That would give people activities to do, and we were looking at offering references to people who needed them as well for doing that and volunteering.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Kaylee, I agree with you entirely. There needs to be more for kids to be getting up to at the moment. We've just seen over the weekend the having to lock down Teddington Lock and the island because there's nothing there for them. I've got 3 of my own, so I know how important it is to get them away from the screens and out of the house. So you are also, it's a lot of pushing at open doors this evening, I must say. So you will get details of all of the councillors after this and their contact details, and I'm sure they'll be happy to talk to you after this.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Right, we are going to move now to a question from Stephen Cunningham. I don't have many other questions in my list at the moment, folks, which means that this could be a very short evening.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you very much. It was just in reference to what Avril said about infestation. I live in Fulmer Close in Hampton, and we've had a number of infestations of rats around the area. our housing association has been dealing with them, and I wonder what the council was doing on the other side of the fence, really, for the rest of nursery lands.
Stephen, this was brought to my attention in Fulmer Close, and it was a terrace of 4 houses, and it started with pigeons in the attic in one house, and it became rats, which spread to all 4 houses. So RHP has started dealing with that, following my chasing that and getting them to urgently look into that, copying in the housing ombudsman to make things happen fast, because we can't be having bad hygiene during a pandemic and families suffering.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Jeffrey, I saw you raise.
Yes, that's just thing. Again, I do wish we could stick to the facts. Fulmer Close is not RHP. It's run by PA, with whom I have an excellent relationship, and will be conducting one of my normal tours with them. But the association is PA. I did raise this particular case with them.
I beg your pardon, Jeffrey. Sorry, I had another issue, which is...
Avril, sorry, what was that?
PA housing. Sorry, Jeffrey, you are right. It is PA housing. It's another issue I had with RHP near that. And it's PA housing that I contacted to deal with that one.
I think the important thing to remember all around is that the people who have responsibility for this sort of issue are the housing authorities. And they are the people that need to, up their game in terms of dealing with these things. There is, of course, the tenants champion, which was introduced under the previous administration, which was an excellent innovation, and we've been happy to continue with that. So if there is a real issue which just cannot be resolved by going directly either to your ward councillors or to the housing association directly, do get the tenants champion involved, because they may be able to throw some weight about, I think is possible.
I know that PA have been doing the work, and I'm due to meet with Councillor Samuel this Friday to look around the estate in Fulmer Close. But I was more concerned about what's on the other side of the fence. It was coming from the RHP stuff, over to us.
I see. I get you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
We'll keep a watching brief on it. If I could ask all councillors, it's important to get the facts right, but picking up every fact does get.
Yeah.
So let's stick to the main question areas. So this doesn't. Stephen, have you heard enough from the councillors to be able to get an answer, or would you like to hear any more?
No, I think it's enough. My concern is it's being dealt with the other side of the fence. It's being dealt with this side of the fence. Yeah. I just wanted the reassurance that it was being dealt with from the other side of the fence, the RHP side. I
think that all 3 of your ward councillors will be on their emails as soon as this event finishes to RHP to do some top level what the hecking with them.
Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so we then move on to, I've read Mr. Kennedy's question. For some reason my mouse doesn't wish to, here we go. Alan Kohler, a question about masks and social distancing.
I'm becoming increasingly concerned about the number of incidents of people entering shops, cafes, and other retail premises in the Hampton ward, entering without wearing masks. And I've also noticed growing incidents, the reluctance by shopkeepers or owners to actually reinforce the rules. In addition to that, for example, a couple of the supermarkets, which I won't name, but are in the Hampton ward, they organize the flow of people going into the supermarkets very adequately, but once inside the supermarket, customers generally don't keep to the social distancing, always. And the shopkeepers, owners are very reluctant to take any action to speak to the offenders.
Okay.
My concern is that it's a growing problem, and if it's not addressed sooner or later, it can have implications for the health and safety issues within the Hampton Borough.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Who would like to take on this one? I mean, I could, but I would like other people to have voices tonight rather than just me.
Yeah,
are you indicating? Good, hello.
Yeah, no, because I actually do work in a shop on Saturdays in Tennington, and it is very difficult when you ask people to put on a mask. It can get quite aggressive, and it does rather put the staff off. I work in the back of the shop, but it is a problem for people who work in the shops. And I don't know how you can address that, to be honest. I think if supermarkets could hand out free face masks to people, they're not that expensive when they come in, that those are available, and they're politely asked, the security guards say, would you put it on? I think that's the only way to get around this. We have them in our shop, by the way, free.
There we go. And thank you for not advertising. Anybody else? Avril?
Well, I work in retail management, and while I've been shielding, I've been keeping in touch with company protocols regarding COVID-19. And the company have mapped out not only going into the stores, but the route around it. And shields have gone in place in front of till areas, so screens to protect staff. But unions have advised what should happen in the event that people aren't complying and aren't wearing masks. And the trade unions have been very clear on this. They've told all retail staff who are union members that there is a zero tolerance policy on that. And they won't tolerate any abuse of any retail staff from people who don't want to comply with wearing a mask. The downside of that is that it then falls back onto the police to enforce the government rules on this. And I know our police have got much better things to do. So it's a tricky one, and I'd only suggest that the council keep reiterating the brilliant scheme they've launched in line with the Keep London Safe scheme about wearing a face mask. And I know you, Councillor Roberts, have done some good videos on that and wearing a mask and demonstrated the benefits of it with your daughter. So hopefully people can share those, people can learn the benefits of protecting others by wearing a mask, and we'll move on from this. I'd also like to mention the 2 pubs in the ward in Hampton North. I understand that the question's about Hampton, but we've both got pubs in our wards. And in place, they've got, as soon as you enter, hand sanitisers, and you also have to wait to be greeted, and you have to give your phone number and your name. And that way, if anything were to happen and somebody who's there on that day and that time contracted COVID-19, they'd be able to trace other people who might have been in contact that you can isolate. And I'd like to thank both Royal Oak and the Hamptons Ale House for putting those protocols into place.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to come in on this one? Okay, the problem that we have, Palan, is that there's no real emphasis of law behind what shopkeepers can do. I mean, people who have, there are exemptions, let's not forget, for people not wearing a face mask, whether they're on the public transport or in the shop or a supermarket. And it's very difficult for either bus drivers or shop owners to enforce the law when they cannot ask to see people's medical history. What we can only do, and what I would suggest to anybody that's listening to this, is to take personal responsibility. If you are out and about, wear a mask. If you're on the bus, wear a mask. If you're in the shop or supermarket, wear a mask. And there may be some people who won't comply, but there are people who don't comply in all walks of life. And I know it's uncomfortable, and I know that it gets terribly in the way. I was in a supermarket just the other day and I had my mask on. I carry it with me at all times, and sneezed. This is quite disgusting now. And sneezed quite heavily, and then I had to carry on around the supermarket wearing this grim mask. It was awful. But we must take personal responsibility for our actions, and if we show people the correct example, we can only hope that in time other people will follow. But there will always be shirty people who will just take it on as some sort of libertarian stance of, I don't have to take rules and regulations like everybody else. We can only do what we can, individually and as a council.
I do appreciate that there will always be a small number of people who will flout the rules or recommendations. My concern is that there is a growing number of people who are entering premises without wearing masks, despite notices hanging outside the shops, you know, that everybody entering in has to wear a mask. And speaking to some of the shopkeepers, they actually have said to me, they are frightened to address the offenders because a lot of people actually have threatened them, etc. Now, if this isn't addressed at some level or the other, it's open license for the virus to spread. We do all take personal responsibilities. Myself and my wife, we actually wear our masks whenever we go outside, never mind going into a shop. But it doesn't seem to be working. Is there something the council can do to reinforce the rules?
Only by keep plugging away with the messaging panel. It's the only thing that we actually can do. We cannot, I mean, unless there is a clear breach of rules, such as if there was a hairdresser, for example, that wasn't following the correct protocols regarding a visor and the separation of the booths, then the council can step in and enforce that. However, when it's the grey areas, of people wearing a face mask when they go into a shop, particularly when, as I say, there are exemptions and people are, I'm afraid to say, exploiting those exemptions because they have got some personal animus against wearing a mask itself, just because they want to be difficult. It is incredibly difficult for the council to step in. What we can do is enforce against those businesses which aren't following the rules themselves. But when it comes to individual responsibility, we have to rely on individuals to do the right thing. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I see I've got a question from Mr. Bollen, who wants to respond about the White House in a non-partisan and constructive way. I hope it is going to be non-partisan, and I hope it is going to be constructive, and I hope that we're not going to be bogged down on the issues relating to the White House. So, Mr. Bollen, if I can also remind you that we are currently within the, what's the best way of putting this? The negotiations are of a legal nature, so we do need to be careful about what's said.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Councillor Roberts. I have, because I was fearful that you might not call me, I have put my statement in the chat, but nevertheless, I will read it. We HOTCA trustees agree with Councillor Samuel that the White House needs professional management. We do not accept the assertion that the trustees have been unnecessarily delaying. There has been an outstanding concern advised by our HR consultants for which we have not yet had council agreement, and the council officers acknowledge that in this we have been doing our duty. We are very keen for the White House to be reopened and hope the council will be able to do this very soon. I'm sorry we can't divulge more, it's confidential. I'd like to make a tribute to Councillor Coelho on the non-partisan way she operates as chair of HOTCA. As a member of a different political party from Avril, I want to place on record my appreciation of how hard she has worked for this community, whether as trustee and chair of the Community Association or outside that role. She has worked tirelessly to keep the White House operating and has always been on the lookout for more ways to bring revenue and funding into the centre. She has always operated in a non-partisan way, and I'm proud to have become a friend. Thank you, Avril.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Bollen. Does any councillor like to respond?
I'd just like to say that Bob's just given a very non-partisan and factual statement, and something hopefully will happen soon, but we can't divulge any more, as he said. We have put up with a lot of unfair criticism in literature, and hopefully we'll move on to better things soon, because you know, lots of parties have been involved over the course of lockdown, week in, week out, Councillor Roberts, and we are striving to do our best, and we'll continue to do so.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments or points? No. Okay, we are going to move on to a positively sylvan idyll as described by Steve Shepherdson, who is going to tell us about nature walks and such like, but it is always better to hear directly from the writer rather than there you
Thank you very much, Councillor. I'm going to be very non-partisan myself about this nature trail. Yeah. I'm just wondering if there's anything that's going to, if there's going to be anything done with the nature trail off Oak Avenue. For example, like maybe like a pond to increase biodiversity, or maybe a map at the gate with examples of the different flora and fauna. You'd see there all the animals, just to, you know, make it nicer for kids when I take them for a walk.
Okay, this is one for, well, anybody really. Councillor Coelho?
Yeah, I've done the trail a number of times, and I've done it in recent weeks as well, and live a stone's throw from it. I have noticed that 2 of the plates describing what wildlife you'll see on that trail in the area where the post is have been damaged and need replacing. So if officers can make a note of that, that'll be much appreciated. I have got photos I'll forward you. The trail has been well maintained. It's been cleared out. Previous years in the past, it's been covered in bracken and brambles, and I've had to cut my way through. So I'm really glad it's been made available to people. It's a brilliant idea, and I'd encourage an application under the local area funds and see what councillors think of that jointly. And maybe if the 3 of us can work together and put our heads together on what we could do that's realistic and financially viable on that trail, then we can make it a much better trail for local people. But the wild grasses and flowers that have grown there have done a fantastic job this summer. It's full of butterflies and moths, and wildlife's brilliant there right now.
I would agree with that.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yes, I know this well, and I'm very pleased with the way in which it's developed over the years. One of the sad things, of course, about looking after our prized open spaces is that you have to try and make things vandal-proof as well. And one of the saddest things is when something that's a real asset to the community is vandalised by mindless people. But I've always been committed to this trail, and be happy to discuss with Steve any further ideas that he's got.
Yes, I would support that too. Yeah, no, I support that. It's a good idea. Yeah, that's where the fun should go. Yeah.
There you are, Mr. Shepherdson. Let me just say, you're muted. I'm rushing there, so you should be getting a list. There we are.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's really nice of you. Thank you. It is a really nice area, that trail. It'd be nice to bring it along a bit more, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Sounds good. So there you are.
Cool.
Very good suggestion. Avril took the words right out of my mouth. It seems something prime for the local area fund. So get in touch with all 3 of them. They'll take it forward.
Cool. Give me the money.
You need to ask for the money. Ask for the money,
Okay,
Steve.
yes.
Yeah.
I know where you live. I'll be knocking on your door.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Excellent.
I forgot you now live. Thank you.
We know where all of you live, ladies and gentlemen. So we now move to Mr. John Slynn.
Hello. Okay.
Hey, John.
Hi. Yeah, I just wondered. I saw. Well, I heard Councillor Nicholson run through the people that have put their oar in the water during this pandemic, and I noticed that Petra Sale didn't get a mention, and she pulled together a group of over 20 residents called Hampton Helpers, who delivered some 100 hours or more of support, running everything from scripts to car restarts and everything in between. So I just wondered if she might get thanked along with the team of people that do all that work.
Definitely. I didn't mean to leave her out. It's just that there was a long list of people helping. Sorry about that.
And I would add, Mr. Slynn, that I don't know if Petra's on the line, so keep this quiet. There is, of course, the Community Heroes Award, which is coming up which is being asked for nominations right now. I'm sure the details will be coming out with this, with the information pack at the end. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if you nominated.
I'm sure Councillor Nicholson will nominate her, obviously.
I'm sure she will. There we go. Do you have anything else?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to Petra.
Excellent. Okay, so then we move to Bryony Farmer.
Hi, yes, I'm a resident of Hampton by the village. I actually didn't have so much a question as I had a suggestion.
Yes,
obviously, we saw the video earlier on for the local fund. I'm not a charitable organisation. I had a suggestion for a way that we can encourage people to use to sort of local villages and town centres. As we know, and we're seeing a lot, there's a lot more people going to be working flexibly and probably from home going forwards in the future. I am self-employed, I'm an entrepreneur, and I have been working from home for pretty much the last 7 years. And one of the things that I think could be a real asset would be if we had more sort of co-working spaces available. The only one we have available at the moment currently is Spaces in Teddington, which is obviously a private company, and they cost a fortune to use that sort of area. I think it's like £150 a month just for 5 days a month. And I felt that a way that could potentially be very useful is if we use some of the empty shops that we've got on our high streets to create these sort of community spaces where people can go, air conditioning for weeks like this, good seating, good Wi-Fi. I'm someone I've lived in Hampton for a good few years now. I can't remember the last time I used my local high street or local street. If I need to order something, I go online or go to Kingston. But if I had that opportunity to go and work somewhere away from home, because often that can be really good for focus, I would definitely use it, especially if it's in walking or cycling distance. I won't be having to use transport, won't be having to pollute the streets. And I know there's a lot of people who are increasingly working from home and would like that opportunity as well. So I felt that there's somewhere there that we could be quite forward-thinking, Richmond could be quite forward-thinking as a council to look to, particularly coming out of COVID, as an opportunity for creating spaces where people can go to work, and then whilst you're there you're going to get hungry and thirsty and you're going to use the cafes and the local shops, and then I'm probably going to forget that it's somebody's birthday and think, oh shoot, I need to buy a gift, and go and use the local shops around there, probably walk past a shop and say, oh, there's a nice dress, the sort of stuff that I might do in the car but then wouldn't go back to. But if I'm already there, I'm going to be using the local area much more. So it was more just a suggestion for that. I don't know if the local fund is sort of suitable for just putting suggestions forward, so maybe that could be answered too.
Okay, I have an answer to this. I don't know if Suzette wishes to say anything.
I'll let you carry on first.
Well, I can tell. I have good news for you, Bryony. Do you know the Metropolitan Water Board, the old club that's just next to the station? There's a new venture which has just opened out of there called the Hampton Inspired Hub, which is run by Susan Green and oh crikey, there's only a few doors down the road from me. His name escapes me. Chris Grace, that's it. They are trying to do exactly what you want, which is to have some spaces where you can go and do meetings, working, hot desking, all of that stuff with a cafe right on the spot. But I appreciate that the way that they're marketing it, that might get very busy very soon. So that already exists, but I don't think we should allow ourselves not to be looking for other opportunities. One of the things I'm aware of is that there is the planning application in place at the moment regarding the disused waterworks site, just opposite where the Black Bottle development is. And they are looking also to be putting in a one of these shared space working environments right there. I appreciate that that's slightly off the beaten track, however, so that's possibly not going to be encouraging you to whip out to the shops or to pick up the birthday card that you were talking about. But certainly more than happy to keep looking at how we can encourage better use of the shops that we have. I mean, what I would say for Hampton is that at the moment, we have a very low unoccupancy rate, if you get what I'm driving at. Very few empty shops. There's the bank and there's Curves, but at the moment we don't seem to be too badly off. There are questions about whether we may lose any more, particularly given the fact that, for example, we've heard that Boots are closing. I'm not saying that I know anything about Boots closing, but we know that Boots are looking to close some of their branches. But yes, do drop me an email and drop Suzette an email, of course, and we'll be happy to take further suggestions forward.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just looking down now. So, sorry, because there's a lot of chat now in this thing here. So Bob Bullen, we've done that. Hazel has a question.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I guess this is probably more of a borough-wide thing, but particularly for Hampton, I wanted to talk about the traffic. And I've certainly experienced the problems on the River Road going to work over in Esher. But also during this lockdown, I've used my bike a lot and I've cycled along that road and I've really enjoyed it. And it's the first time I've cycled along there and felt confident about that. And I know there's initiatives to carry on encouraging cycling. And I wondered, you know, how that was going to be carried on, and also reducing pollution in the area, which must be pretty bad with the volume of cars. I mean, we have become a bit of a car park, a bit like the M25. You know, it's quite a wealthy area, a lot of young people, cars, almost just after they've got a bicycle. You know, but it's such a great way to get around, and it's great to have seen people cycling. I know I could cycle to work, and I certainly, in fact, I've been in touch with you, Gareth, in the past about the Duke's Passage cycling.
Oh, yes.
And I'm very happy that, because I'd cycled down that for 10 years, very sedately, and I was quite devastated when I couldn't feel safe about cycling to work any longer. I know I appreciate the other side of the problem for car drivers, in that I also am a member of Kew Gardens, and the prospect of cycling to Kew Gardens has kind of just terrified me. I've just given it up. I'm not happy to get on the bus at the moment. I don't feel I can cycle there. I feel I'd like to see a lot of encouragement about electric bikes, and, you know, you know, also, I guess the fact that the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit is sort of being ignored because there's more space, everyone's speeding around more, those delivery drivers. I'm just kind of, because David Attenborough lives in our borough, I wondered what environmental issues, what, you know, reduction in plastic use and encouraging to get out in the fresh air would be continued.
There was a lot to pack in there, Hazel. The cycling, plastic pollution, David Attenborough, who I've met, of course. So, Suzette, cycling in Hampton.
Right, there's an initiative being worked on at the moment to be put in quickly in Hampton Court Road to extend the cycling there. It will then, of course, be open to residents to give their views on it, but it's being worked on at the moment by officers.
Okay. Jeffrey, Avril, Kate?
No, fine.
Not a lot of interest then.
I wouldn't go that far.
No,
I wouldn't go that
true.
far, Hazel.
No,
I mean, there's a huge amount of interest, and you know, there's.
The interest on the Hampton Court Road is massive. I mean, it's the slightest little roadwork, and the traffic's backed up all the way to Sunbury, and it's backed up all the way through the west to the Hampton Court and everything. So that, and you know, cycle lanes, but until you sort out the roadworks, I think that the cycle, it's going to be tricky.
Absolutely. I mean, do try cycling to Kew Gardens again, because we have a new filtered cycle lane, because the place where all the cars used to be, but those horrible red and white water barriers are going. So it's going to be the orcas and wands, you know, those little sort of black and white sticky up poles. So that's going to create a through route directly through to Kew Gardens. And we want to go on.
I mean, I think to be honest, the long-term solution to traffic levels, pollution levels, and getting around is public transport.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree.
The buses. Yeah. You know, obviously in the winter we're not all going to cycle around in the pouring rain necessarily, and also, you know, I take a friend to Kew Gardens, as lots of people do, and we all used to, of course, take advantage of the free parking at 10 o'clock on Kew Road. And of course, a lot of people now go at 12 when they can fill up the side roads. It will be good to see when the buses are full capacity and we all feel confident enough, obviously, to get back on it and out of our cars. I think that's the way forward, really.
Just on you raised the question of plastics. It's a new initiative. A young lady from Hampton, one of our school children, approached the council just within the last few weeks regarding the possibility of some form of recycling facility, which is for those things which you normally can't recycle.
Plastic
so crisp packets, toothpaste tubes, and all of that. And we're looking to see whether that's something that the council can put some small amount of funding into as a trial to see whether it works. You can get it done on a free basis, but those ones tend to be sponsored solely by, so Walker's Crisps, for example, may sponsor a box, but it is only for the collection of Walker's crisp bags, which, you know, you could be there all year waiting for a small one to fill up, but if you've got something which is far more user-friendly. So we are looking at everything that we can do, and I know that Councillor Fleming, for example, who's a councillor over in South Richmond ward, has been doing excellent work with the local traders before COVID kicked in regarding the single-use plastics, particularly straws. Now, I know that some people do need to use plastic straws, but reducing their use in the mainstream is something which he's been working on a lot, and it's something that we as a council are all, irrespective of party, keen to get to grips with.
And also, coffee cup lids, the plastic lids that I'm sure, you know, we don't need them. We all managed not to burn ourselves before. You know, we don't need plastic lids on our paper coffee cups.
Yeah, and masks. Masks are the things which are all over the place at the moment. If you got a mask,
fantastic cotton ones. There's a lovely tailor in Hampton Wick who makes multicoloured, beautiful cotton ones, and lots of people are making them. I don't think we need plastic ones.
No, I agree entirely. Okay, so thank you very much, Hazel, for your question. I'm going to move on to Ian Lancaster, who is asking a question on behalf of Anita, exclamation mark.
And the question is, as a cyclist, I love cycling through Bushy Park at the moment, but do we know whether Royal Parks has any plans to reopen the through route for vehicles? Because it is annoying to have to go all the way around to get, for example, from Hampton to Teddington.
That's not okay. So, anybody have any information on the Royal Parks movement strategy?
Yes, from Saturday they are continuing to keep the road closed from Hampton to Teddington. You won't be able to drive through.
You say from Saturday. Is that going to be a new permanent restriction?
I think they're going to look at it after a few months, see how, you know, what people are saying about it and how it's affecting traffic in the local area.
Yeah.
Yes, if I can just add to that, Leader, someone who goes to Bushy Park several times a week. I think this is a really difficult issue for Royal Parks to cope with. A number of local people who enjoy the environment there would like to minimise cars, but on the other hand, the traffic implications for the outside, which are even more serious with Richmond Park, are another issue. Royal Parks are engaged in a lengthy consultation, as Suzette has said, and I don't think we'll know the result for several months.
You will see, oh, hello, Mr. Lancaster, somebody's muted you, hang on.
You just said Royal Parks is engaged with a consultation.
Yes, yes.
How do we participate in that consultation?
I think if you
online,
go onto Royal Parks on your computer.
Yeah.
In the chat, Ian, there's a link. We will send this link out as part of the stuff. As I understand it, it's going to be a 6-month consultation, and they're also doing a similar consultation regarding the movement through Richmond Park. In fact, they're doing a movement it's the movement strategy which they're doing on all of their estates. So they're not just fingering us and saying we're going to have a go at Richmond about the way they move within their parks. It's all of the parks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hyde Park, St James's Park, everybody.
Excellent. Okay, so we now move on to question from William.
Hello there. I'm the chair of the Hampton Society, and we regularly hold events in St Mary's Church Hall. And my question is, even though I'm keeping an eye on what can and can't be done, we get an attendance of between 60 and 80 people to our talks on a regular basis. And I wonder if anything is filtering down from central government to the council as to when we can think about rescheduling the talks that we've had to postpone, knowing that we could probably distance people within the church hall by at least a metre apart from each other, because the chairs are set out every time that we have a talk. That's it.
Okay, Jeffrey, did you want to come in on that?
Just simply, may I pay tribute to William and the Hampton Society. Some people believe that it only covers the Hampton ward, but it covers a large part of Hampton North again, and the Hampton Society does an excellent job. I'm afraid that this once again comes back to what is, for me, the key issue, the fact that those who could open the White House are not doing so. You could easily hire that very large hall in the White House, in which it would be perfectly possible for you to have your activities, which I would support. And obviously, I'm pleased that other trustees are pleased what trustees are doing. But my concern is for the residents of Hampton and Hampton North. And the sooner that HOTCA allows us to get that open, and that the Hampton Society and others can use it as a community centre, the better. And the sooner the obstruction ends, the better for all of us.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey, but that wasn't quite my question. But thank you for your praise anyway. It was really what guidance there is, not whether somewhere is available or not.
Oh, my understanding would be that you would be able to use the large hall in the White House. I may be wrong, but that is my understanding.
What we can do, William, is get some detailed guidance for you from the officers. Community engagement team are on this call at the moment, and they'll be able to not only tell you precisely, they'll get the details from the Regulatory Services Partnership, which is a posh word for licensing, and they will be able to tell you precisely what you can do, what you can't do, how many people will be allowed in the room, possible sizes of rooms in the local area. I can see Siobhan is nodding away like nobody's business, so I'm obviously saying all the right things, which is rare. Yeah, we'll certainly be in touch with some of the details for you. We'll take this offline, but yeah, we need to start getting the live brief back to Hampton. It is one of the big regrets that this year we've been unable to do the online open air cinema. Online open air cinema, everything's online. Yeah. The open, now I'm like that man that used to do Mule Train, the one for the teenagers. That we can't do the open air cinema this year because there were so many issues arising from it. But I very much hope that Screen on the Green will be back, as will Classics on the Green, and we hope to get all of this, the response properly sorted in time for Christmas in Hampton. So yeah, we'll be in touch with some details if that helps.
Thank you, and thank you for your regular updates through the community newsletter as well, because where there has been a lack of clarity as far as guidance is concerned, I thought that the council, although have had to find their way as things have developed, have been very regular at updating anybody who's signed up to the newsletter, and I would encourage anybody who isn't currently signed up to the council newsletter to do so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have 10 minutes in hand with no questions.
Hooray.
So, who said hooray? So either somebody might wish to ask a question, we could finish early, or we could stick the potter's wheel on for a few minutes and just sit and watch. So if there are any questions, I will give, because it doesn't take long to type the word question into the bar. Oh, hang on a minute. Right. As I'm not, I've now just pressed them, so I need to go back to chat. Okay, no, I can't see any further questions. What an incurious lot you are this evening. Maybe it's the heat. It's only.
May I say something?
Yes, of course,
Leader.
Yes,
May
of course.
I say something in conclusion, Leader?
Yes, of course.
Which I think is on behalf of all of us, to thank you for your chairmanship this evening, which has produced a very helpful meeting, and from Kate and me, our very best wishes and good luck in the work you're doing on the White House.
Thank you so much. Would anybody else like to offer me similarly greasy encouragement? Not that people might suggest that I need it.
No.
Thank you very much.
No, I mean yes. I agree.
Thank you so much. Okay, so it's only now that brings us very close to time. So the pubs are open, everybody. So I do encourage you to go and use them because it's a beautiful evening. So it only leaves me to say thank you. First and foremost, thank you to the community engagement team and the council's communications team, who do an enormous amount of work to pop these events on. That, you know, you would think these days that sticking a Zoom meeting together would be done like that. However, the promotion, the detail finding, the sorting everything out, this is so much hard work that goes on. So thank you very much to them. Thank you very much to our councillors who come along this evening, Councillor Samuel, Councillor Nicholson, Councillor Coelho, Councillor Howard. I suppose I should say thank you to me, but I'm there we go. But as always, the big thing, because these are community conversations, so the biggest thanks of all of this goes to the community, chiefly yourselves. So thank you very much. Have a good evening, and we'll enjoy seeing you round and about Hampton soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.